Well, happy Independence Day, everybody. It's a nice and cool 97 degrees here in South Georgia today. And this is the new acquisition here. I've been looking for an automatic sliding fifth wheel hitch for a while. My parents have a camper that we can use if we want to, but got a truck to pull it, just never did have a hitch. And being a short bed, I didn't want to have to worry about forgetting that one time, which I know I would do, and wind up with a busted rear glass. So I actually found this. This is an 18,000 pound Pullrite Superglide, and I found it on Craigslist from a guy up around Atlanta. Didn't need it anymore, and so we're going to put it in today. It came with the hitch, it came with the super rails, the Pullrite super rails, the mounting brackets, which you need to mount them, and it also came with a multi-fit capture plate, because on these sliding hitches, this bolts to the pin box on the trailer, and this big key right here gets captured in the slot of the hitch, so it forces the head of the hitch to turn as you do, and it automatically slides the hitch to the rear. The only problem is that multi-fit capture plate does not multi-fit the pin box on our trailer. So I've ordered the proper capture plate. This is a 65. Ordered the 66. So it should be here this week. But I think I'll probably just hang on to that 65 just in case. There's a slight possibility that trailer might be getting replaced here in the next year or so. So I figure I probably ought to hold on to that capture plate just in case. So I have a box full of bolts, a bunch of instructions, and a bunch of pieces of heavy steel. What I'm not sure I've got, I do need a 1 3/4 hole saw to cut the holes in the bed for the pins that the super rail sits on. And I'm not sure I've actually got one of those. I may have to pick one of those up tomorrow morning and then drill the full size holes later, but let's see how far we get today. Okay, so I have measured in accordance with the layout in the Pullrite Super Rail manual. So I need to get ready to drill my pilot holes, and I'm gonna have, let's see, one of them here, one of them there, there's gonna be one right there, and then the fourth one will be over here somewhere. Oh yeah, there. Anyway, somewhere over there. I can see the mark, I just can't see it in the camera. But I think what I need to do is get the broom and sweep out my truck bed first. Make it a lot easier. So let me do that. And actually, I'm marked up, but what the manual says to do is to take the brackets, and put clear tape over these holes, and go ahead and snugly bolt the brackets up. Don't cinch them down tight, because we're going to take them back off, but bolt the brackets up with the tape on. Drill the pilot hole, little 1/16 inch pilot hole. Take the brackets back off and check to make sure that the hole is in the pilot hole is in the center of this hole. So I need to find me some clear tape. That's what I need to do. All right, I'll be back. So I'll say this. The install of this mountain bracket, it's not complicated, and it's not beyond anybody's capability. But when it's 105 outside, it's pretty near beyond my desire to do it. The bad thing about this install is there's a bumper that mounts on those 4 holes of the frame for this overload spring. And you got to take that bumper off because it uses those holes. The only thing is you got to drill the holes out 1 extra size up to 1/2 inch, because the bolts that they provided for this bracket will not fit through the frame holes. Funnily enough, they do fit through the overload bumper. They just don't fit through the frame holes. So you got to drill those out to 7/16 actually. It's 7/16. This front one up here, that one, you've got to drill it out to 1/2 inch. I really don't understand why they couldn't design this thing to use the size hardware that was already there on the vehicle. It just seems unnecessary, especially with that big old 3/4 inch bolt right there. And then there's another like a little over 1/2 inch bolt goes there. Seems like they could have used the same size hardware that came in the vehicle. So like I say, you really need to take the spare tire out, which it's the first time I've had the spare tire off this truck, and I spent a 1/2 hour trying to figure out how to get the spare tire out, and realized that the spare tire winch has a special key that they do not put in the package with the jack and the winch handle. It's in the glove compartment. So it took me a 1/2 hour to figure that out and find the key. But the back 2 holes here, you have to be able to get behind there, and you can't get behind there with the spare tire up. So you need to take the spare tire down. So I need to drill those out to 7/16. Get that one drilled out to 1/2. Bolt this thing up. Now, as for the alignment, the holes you drill in the bed are supposed to be 1 3/4 inches. Closest I have is 1 7/8 inches. There goes the air compressor. So 1/8 bigger. I'm not going to take these darn brackets off. I'm going to bolt them up. I'm going to drill the holes. If they don't fit, I've got a die grinder. I can open the hole up enough so that the pins will go where they need to go. Let's get this done. Well, I almost got that driver's side bracket all the way on, and then this happened. First rain we've had in like a month and a half, and it had to happen on the first day I've had off and able to work on something in about a month and a half. Isn't that about how it goes? So on this one, I was mistaken. Those 4 bolts that go through the overload bumper bracket, you don't have to drill those out. They're just really tight. The holes in the frame have paint in them. So if you spin them in with the air ratchet, they'll go right through and they'll waller out the paint. So you don't have to drill those out. That front one, you do have to drill that one out to 1/2 inch. The problem is, when you drill through, it's not, the frame, yes, also has to go up to 1/2 inch, but on the other side of the frame is one of the legs of the bracket that holds the DEF tank and the DEF pump on. And when you drill through there, you're drilling through one of those little spring nut clips that they use. and that's the thing that's holding the holes in alignment. So when you drill through, there's some spring in that stamped steel bracket, and the whole thing just springs out of alignment. And it's a real pain to get that hole lined back up, because you got to put the bolt in from the inside. So it's a real pain to get up in there. You've got to pull back on that front leg of that bracket hard enough to flex it so that the holes line up, while at the same time pushing the bolt through the hole with the same hand you're pulling the bracket with, because there's not room for two hands up there, at least not two of mine. So after I went through just about every persuasive swear I could think of and got that bolt through, it occurred to me that I really could have just probably loosened up the rest of the bolts holding that def tank and pump on, and it would have just lined right up for me. Oh well. So I've got that front one tight. I need to tighten up the rear four. That that big 3/4 inch bolt in the middle there, I have to put it back. It kind of pushed out when I was getting that front one in. So if you're going to do this yourself, like I say, it's not out of the realm of anybody's ability, but it's just a pain. I mean, if they had just used hardware on that front, if they had used an identical bolt on that front hole just a little bit longer than what was in there originally, that would have gone through that hole, threaded into that clip nut, this install would have been just dead simple. Now, I expect the other side, the passenger side, to go pretty quickly, because the passenger side doesn't have all the crap on the inside of the frame that the driver's side has. The driver's side has got, like I say, that def tank, that def pump is up there. The wiring harness for all the tail lights, the trailer wiring, all of that goes through the driver's side of the frame to the back. So there's a lot of stuff up in there to be in the way. Now, there's none of that on the passenger side. So I expect the passenger side is probably going to go quicker. So if you subscribe to the theory that when you're going to do a task, you should do the hard part first, do the driver's side first, because the passenger side is definitely not going to be as hard. Okay. Well, I think the rain's let up a little bit, so let me go see if I can get my bolts tight. And I don't even know what time it is. It may be time to call it off for the day and try catching up on this a little bit later in the week. I was really hoping to get this whole thing installed today. There's the possibility we're going camping next weekend, and I really wanted to give that fifth wheel a test pull with my dad around. I've never pulled his camper. I just wanted to give it a test pull with him around, just to make sure it was, everything, that I knew how to work everything on it. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to have time to get these brackets installed. Like I say, I hope the passenger side one just goes faster. It's really, I think all I've got left to do, just get the brackets bolted on. I'm just going to go ahead and drill the holes, because I'm drilling them 1/8 of an inch larger than what they call out, and it should all line up just fine. We'll see. We'll see. All right, the rain's quit, so let me go get to work. Well, I was right. Passenger side was way easier. Got it in there in about 15-20 minutes, as opposed to the hour and a half I spent with the driver's side. Started cutting my holes. Just wanted to check and make sure the little pin fit. It did. Just got started on the second one. I broke 2 1/4 inch pilot bits for the hole saw, so we're out of pilot bits. So I got to go by Lowe's in the morning and pick up some 1/4 inch drill bits. Good news is drilling these holes should only take about 10 minutes, and then it'll be done. And I've got a wiring kit on order to move the fifth wheel wiring over here on the inside of the bed. But so I'll just pick this up tomorrow once I get the holes cut and all the pins in and the hitch mounted. Talk to you then. Alright, so it's the next day. Went by Lowe's this morning, picked up some 1/4 inch drill bits. Managed not to break another one. So I got my 4 holes cut in the bed. Got my pins mounted. So I'm ready to put the hitch in. But before I do that, I bought this hitch used. And even though the guy I bought it from was the kind of guy you can tell takes super good care of everything he owns, it's probably still not a bad idea to do an annual maintenance check on this thing, which means I need to lubricate the pivot pin. I'm going to put a little bit of grease here on the trunnions where the fifth wheel plate mounts, spray down the mechanism for the kingpin latch with WD-40, which is what they recommend here in the manual. And yeah, just give it a good lube. Now the rails on this one, on these hitches, depending on when the hitch was made, there's 3 options for lube. Really old Superglides, they want you to put some light grease on the slide rails here. The newest version of the Superglides have a Teflon plate between this plate here and the rails, and you just spray that with WD-40 every day before you take off. The ones in the middle, which is the kind that I've got, take a dry graphite spray before every trip on the slides. I don't have any graphite spray. I've got to pick some up, so I'll take care of that little lube before I use it for the first time. But while I've got it sitting out here where it's going to be easy to work on, I'm going to go ahead and lube those pivot points and then get it mounted up in the truck. Well, there it is, all mounted up. So just so you know, that sucker is heavy. You are not going to put it in there by yourself unless you got a couple of professional wrestler size buddies, an engine hoist, an overhead hoist, or a backhoe. I got a backhoe, so I put it in there with the backhoe. But yeah, everything slipped right down on top of the pegs, put the pins in, and we are ready to go. So that's it. That's installing the Superglide. Might be beyond your desire to do it though. So if you find an installer that'll do it for you for $100 or $150, I'd take them up on that offer. But I like to do things myself. So there we go, and appreciate y'all watching.